People with ARs don't get in cattle cars. Not all Jews are anti-gun. Most Orthodox Jews are incredibly pro-gun. I believe that you are your own first line of defense.
What do you think Israel should do about their gun policies?
Change them completely. I don't feel a loyalty to the Israeli government or to Israel itself, more to the Jewish people.
Welcome back to another episode of the Black and Jewish podcast. Today, I have a special guest. He is famously known as the PewPewJew, Yehuda Remer. Yehuda, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Is this correct? I heard you said that you are an author of 9 books.
Yes, that is correct.
Wow. What are your books about?
So my books are mainly Second Amendment education and firearm safety for kids. I do have some books that are a little satirical, but I would say probably 7 out of 9 of my books are geared towards children to educate them about firearm safety, as well as the history of the Second Amendment, and just some, 2A education thrown in between.
So you're an Orthodox Jew and you are a 2A advocate. How did you become a 2A advocate, and how does the Orthodox community receive Second Amendment education?
So that's a great question. It's a funny story because I grew up in Los Angeles, and until I was 18, 19, I always thought that, maybe even later, maybe 21, I always thought that all Jews were Democrats because that's what everyone tells you. So I wrote my first book after I found out that not only was I not a Democrat, I wasn't even Republican. I was like a 3% Tea Party, full-on patriot going that direction. And I bought my first gun once I got married. I had a baby in the house, and my parents found out that I owned a gun. Even though I didn't live in their home anymore, they kind of freaked out. Full-on Chernobyl and the meltdown. They didn't talk to me for weeks, called me every name under the book. And I decided that... Are your
parents Orthodox? Did you grow up Orthodox Jewish?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I grew up Orthodox Jewish in California, in Los Angeles. So I wrote my first book because I realized if I was going to be a gun owner, not only did I have to know everything about gun safety, but I wanted my children to be educated on gun safety as well. So I went online and I was shocked, and this was in 2011. I was shocked that there were no books on the market about gun safety geared for children. There was stuff about books for parents, but there was nothing as like, you're going to read your kid a story before bed or cuddle up with them on the couch and read them a book. There was nothing. So I always enjoyed creative writing. So one day I decided to write a book, never thinking it would actually get published. And I sent the manuscript. It took me about 20 minutes to write my first book.
20 minutes?
It took me about 20 minutes to write the whole book.
How many pages?
So it's a kid's book, so it's only, maybe 4 or 5 sentences per page. It's not like
a storybook.
Yeah. It's here. I have it right here. So it's literally, this is the book, and it's a kid's book like this.
Oh, beautiful illustrations. I love that.
Thank you. So I wrote the book in about 20 minutes, sent it to a buddy of mine who's in the LAPD, and he kind of tore it to shreds with constructive criticism and made me kind of rewrite it, but expand it at the same time. And it took me 7 years to get my book published because no one would touch it. This country, as pro-gun as they are, the publishing world is very anti and very liberal. So
would they not touch it because it was geared towards children, or because it was advocating for the Second Amendment?
I'm going to guess both, because it's advocating for the Second Amendment, but it's also pro-gun, pro-child. And to them, it's, you're teaching kids how to shoot, which is a bad thing. So, but it took 7 years to get published. I finally got published. And then the way I got into the advocacy side was actually really funny. Up until my first book came out, I was always a behind the scenes person. I was a photographer. I hated being in front of the camera. I hated being in the limelight. It made me so uncomfortable. But I realized when my first book came out, I would have to get over that fear of public speaking and being somewhat in the limelight if I wanted to be successful and build or promote the book. So I tried getting an endorsement from a man named Alan Gottlieb, who runs the Second Amendment Foundation. And I met him at an event, and I asked him, like, hey, can I get a endorsement? And he's like, yeah, no problem. And then he says, hey, do you want to speak at the Gun Rights Policy Conference? And my book had been out for 3 months. I knew no one. I knew nothing about the gun world. All I know is I wrote a children's book on gun safety. And me being all cool and macho and not trying to shy away from the question. I was like, yeah, of course I'll speak at the Gun Rights Policy Conference, thinking to myself, like, oh, there's probably going to be like 30 or 40 people there, right? Like, how big can it be?
Yeah.
So I stupidly asked him, I'm like, Mr. Gottlieb, how many people are going to be there? And he goes, about 400 or 500.
Oh.
And I white as a ghost. All the color drained from my face, and I walked home. I got home. I drove home. I walked into the house, and my wife took one look at me, and she goes, oh my God, what happened? Because she saw. And I told her, I'm like, I think I messed up. And the speech was 6 months later. I wrote the speech in probably the first month, and then I practiced it for 5 months, and I was still terrified. But once I started going and the speech finished, and I actually got a standing ovation, which was beyond terrifying and bizarre at the same time. That's when the advocacy started. It was never part of the plan, wasn't in the cards. It's just something that fell into my lap because there was no Orthodox Jews advocating for the Second Amendment, and there still really isn't. There's a lot of Jews who do firearms training, or maybe like there's a friend of mine in New York who's suing the government constantly over draconian gun laws that they're trying to pass in New York, but there is no one out there in a very public setting defending the Second Amendment. So the whole ball just kept rolling.
In your opinion, why isn't there a large amount of Orthodox Jews advocating for the Second Amendment? Do they support the Second Amendment and they're just quiet and, insular and just don't talk about it? Or are they, fearful of guns?
So that's a great question. And in usually people ask me the general term of why are Jews anti-gun? But now Orthodox Jews tend to be pro-Second Amendment because they do have those Judeo-Christian value systems, and they do believe in sanctity of life. So most Orthodox Jews do believe in the Second Amendment. That's not a blanket statement. I know a lot of them who would wish the Second Amendment didn't exist, but overall they do support it. Now, within the Orthodox world, I have found that there are different levels of support. You have those who support it, but want to have nothing to do with it. You want to own a gun, you own a gun. We don't want to own a gun. We don't want to have anything to do with it, but we understand why it's there. Then you have your closet gun owners in the Orthodox world who don't want their neighbors to know they have guns. And one of the main things that I've heard more often than not is, well, we're afraid if our friends find out we have a gun, then they won't have play dates on Shabbat and stuff like that, which in turn would make their kids pariahs, and they would have, their social life would be over, which I think is crazy, but hey, you do you. Then you have your gun owners who are, again, not vocal about gun ownership, but they have guns. They will go to the range. They'll practice. And then you have your very, very select few. When I say very select few, maybe like, I can tell you like 4 or 5 people off the top of my head who in the Orthodox world who are out in the forefront talking about guns, getting Jews interested in firearms, training them, and advocating for the Second Amendment. Now, they more concentrate on the training aspect, where I'm coming more from the advocacy side, but they're doing some great work as well.
I find it so interesting. Also, I'm Orthodox Jew as well. My rabbi in San Diego, he carries a gun. He carries his gun on Shabbat. He believes that, we need to be protecting ourselves. I just find it interesting given, anti-Semitism is, on the rise now, even after October 7th, but it's always been, on the rise in America. And given that, we have real attacks against synagogues, you would think that, more Orthodox Jews and Jewish people, because we know most of American Jews are, tend to be, on the left and liberal and anti-gun, would be more, advocating to protect themselves and wanting to actually be able to protect their person.
Yeah, you would think that, but unfortunately, there's what almost a weird fear of firearms, right? You'll have Jews advocating for every other, political talking point, but when it comes to firearms, there's just a fear, and I believe that the fear stems from this is my personal thought, stems from the Holocaust. That after Jews came over from America, what they just went through and witnessed with the power of guns terrified them, so that they just wanted to be left alone. They didn't want to see guns ever again. They didn't want to be around death or anything like that. So they, and it's one of the reasons, I mean, this can be a whole other podcast, but it's one of the reasons why Jews tend to vote left, is because when they came over from Europe after World War II, they came with nothing. And what we had in place in America was FDR's the New Deal, with all these social welfare programs, which helped the Jews, and then they became devoted to the Democratic Party, and so on and so on. But the same goes with the firearms, is that they just came over witnessing the horrors of the Holocaust. Why would they want to be around firearms? And it just passed that hate, that I guess that irrational fear of firearms passed down from generation to generation. I mean, like I said, I didn't grow up around firearms. My parents we never talked about it ever. My close buddy took me to the range one day, and he's like, "Hey, let's go shooting." And I looked at him. I'm like, "Well, dude, who are you?" Like, I didn't even know he was a gun owner. He's one of my closest friends, and he kept it hidden for a while.
Was he a Jewish or non-Jewish friend? Yeah,
Jewish. Yeah.
Okay.
Or one of my closest. Yeah. He one of my closest friends. The day of my wedding, he was there right next to me. I mean, one of my closest friends, and he's the one that got the ball rolling, because he introduced me to the whole world of firearms. I always thought that the only people allowed to own firearms were military, law enforcement, and like bad guys, right? Like that's what I always thought. But he's the one that introduced me to firearms, and it was fantastic.
How do you, in your advocacy, especially in the Orthodox community, how do you bring them to the other side? What is it? How do you break down that fear of guns? What is it in your experience that you have seen where people have that aha moment and it clicks for them, and you ease them into being comfortable with, shooting a firearm, let's go to the range, and just educating them that they need to be able to protect their person?
So that's also another great question. It's a case by case. So there's a lot of people who are interested but have that irrational fear, and I say, hey, just come with me to the range one time. All you have to do is pull the trigger once. If you don't like it, that's it. We'll walk away. But I don't push anyone to do it. They have to come to me, because I'm not going to force anyone to do it. One question I get asked a lot is, I want you to convince me why guns are important, why we should embrace the Second Amendment. And without doing the whole, well, did you not witness, or did you not learn from history, right, with the Holocaust? I always tell people, I'm like, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to answer me truthfully. And I say, are you married? And they know I know the answer, but I'm like, just answer. They're like, yes. Like, do you have kids? Yes. Do you love your wife? Yes. Do you love your kids? Yes. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to protect them and make sure that they're safe? They go, yes. I'm like, that's a lie. And they're like, wait, what? Like, how? They're like, how can you say that? I'm like, because here you're asking me to convince you to purchase a firearm, but that means that you're not willing to do whatever is necessary. Look at the world we're in. A gun is an equalizer. It allows anyone to have an equal opportunity to defend themselves against whatever threat comes their way. I'm like, the fact that you're saying you're willing to do whatever is necessary, but now we're having this conversation means you're not willing to do whatever is necessary. I know living with guns is terrifying, but at the same time, you practice gun safety, you learn how to use it properly, you treat them with respect. Living with guns is really not so scary. I mean, I've got 4 kids. My 14-year-old goes shooting. My 12-year-old daughter goes shooting. I just started introducing my 8-year-old son, who's kind of scary with a rifle at 8 years old. I mean, he's really talented, and I can't wait to develop his skills. So it's just one of the things that my kids know where my guns are. If they want to see them, all they have to do is ask. You know, I've taken away that cool factor, that mystique of firearms. To them, it's just, oh yeah, it's just a gun. If we want to see it, my dad will let us see it if we ask him. But they also know that they're not allowed to touch it without permission. And it's just from an early age, they're educated, they're trained.
What is the biggest misconception around guns and children and safety for children? Because a lot of people will argue children should not have access to guns. They can accidentally kill themselves. Don't leave your guns around. Even if you lock them up, children can still have access because they're in the home and they can accidentally, harm themselves.
Yeah, I mean, do you have cooking knives on your counter?
Yes, I do.
Right. I don't know if you're married or have children because we just met, but
not yet. Bezrat Hashem, very soon.
Okay, awesome, good to hear. But no, you have cooking knives on your counter. Most Jewish families have a set of at least one, probably 2, because of meat and dairy, right? They have them, but how come you don't see kids grabbing knives and stabbing each other? Well, because from a very young age, from the time they're 2, 3 years old, they're like, mommy, daddy, I want a knife to cut their, dinner. So you give them like a butter knife, right? One that like completely, or a kid's knife or plastic knife, one that completely won't hurt anything, that you can't cut anything. But as they get older, right, and they get more mature and they're learning that knives can be dangerous, my 8-year-old loves steak. And when we make steak at home, he'll have a steak knife and he's 8 years old.
Right.
And he uses it properly. I mean, it's the same thing, anything can be used as a tool. I mean, my son this morning, I was lying on the floor with him, my 3-year-old, and he says, "Daddy, you're broken." And he took out a tool set and takes a hammer and starts hitting me with a hammer. And I'm like, "Oh, buddy, he was fixing me. He was pretending to fix me."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Hey, bud, we don't use hammers to hit people. We have to use your nails and stuff like that." And he's held a real hammer before, and it's a matter of educating them and training them. So it's the same thing with a gun. A gun is a tool, nothing more. And if you educate and train them from a younger age, you'll have less accidents happening. As long as you keep them locked up, and you also have to teach a healthy respect for them, that these are dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So that's what I would say.
It sounds like education removes fear as well. The more you
Absolutely.
know, the less you have to fear.
Absolutely.
Yehuda, are you a Zionist?
I mean, that's a great question. That's a loaded question, right? Like, Zionism was really a movement that succeeded in the 40s, right? Like, what's Zionism today, right? Is it the same thing as Zionism from, the early 1900s? I would say no, it's different. I am pro-Israel. I love Israel. I think Israeli politics are more messed up than American politics. So until that changes, and until Israel becomes a lot more the way it was intended to be, I don't think I would ever move there. But I send money to friends of the IDF, United Hatzalah.
You believe in the right for Israel to exist?
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. 100%.
How has the gun community received you as an Orthodox Jew, especially after October 7th? What type of pushback are you seeing? What type of maybe even support are you seeing? What's happening as an Orthodox Jew in the gun community?
So the gun community overall is incredibly pro Judaism, if you will. What I mean by that is it is so diverse. There are people from all walks of life, to the point where all they care about is if you're pro-gun, right? If you're pro-gun, you're with us. If you're anti-gun, you're against us. What I have seen is there are a lot of people who, and this is something that really hit me hard, but I think in my mind, I've kind of balanced it out. There are a lot of people who are not against Israel, but against giving money to Israel, right? In the gun world. Mm-hmm. But these are people who fought in wars, right? These are Iraq, Afghanistan vets, right? These are people who come off as maybe sounding anti-Semitic, right? Like I know Thomas Massey, for example, or I'll give you a better case. Are you familiar with Brandon Herrera?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so Brandon Herrera is a huge gun influencer. He ran for Congress here in Texas, lost by like 75 votes a few months ago. He is an amazing individual. He is a friend of mine. He has helped my books. He's promoted me. He has got me, huge deals on things. But he was asked as he's running for Congress, would he vote for a package to send money to Israel? And he repeatedly said no. And you had his opponent, who's not Jewish, but then you had AIPAC, and you had other like Israel Insider and all these other news publications coming out calling him an anti-Semite. Now, I can tell you straight away, the guy does not have a hateful bone in his body. He is just a fun-loving guy who he loves everyone as long as you're not trying to take away his freedom. But the reason why he said he wouldn't send money is because he is America first. Why should American taxpayer money go to a foreign government? Now, I have my own reasons why I do believe America should be supporting Israel. But someone like Brandon, who says, no, money should not go to Israel, what does he have invested in Israel? Nothing. He's running to be an American politician, trying to make the burden on American taxpayers as easy as possible, trying to make life easier for them. So why
is right? He I don't think and the other people that you know, are they isolationists? So they believe like no funding should go to any foreign country? Because I think what happens with this argument is Israel, like whenever funding comes up for Israel, it's like massive in the news. It's always about Israel, but no one talks about, the humanitarian aid and funding we're sending to Nigeria. No one, right. We don't see our politicians coming out and saying, stop sending money, over to Africa. We see the Ukraine. We have seen people talk about the Ukraine, but even that, it didn't blow up as big as it did for Israel, even knowing that we've sent more money to the Ukraine. And so I think that's why sometimes there could be that sentiment of, is this anti-Semitism? But I also agree with you that I have no issue with, people saying, listen, my position, I'm a libertarian or whatever, and my position is that no money should go to a foreign country, But when it comes to Israel, I just don't want your voice to be the loudest when it comes to Israel. You know what I mean? Like, let it be loud for every country that, we send money to.
Right, 100%. And he is not, well, again, I'm not going to speak for him. But
and I wasn't speaking specifically about him. I was just saying, in general.
I get it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't have a problem sending humanitarian aid to countries that truly need it, but they don't want to go and fund wars. I think that's where the real, like, right, it's a thin line, right? Sending to, war-torn, well, not even, I don't want to say war-torn, but, countries that have massive droughts and their need for water filtration systems. I'm totally fine with that. And I think a lot of other people are. But I think when it comes to, well, why are we supporting other countries' battles?
Well, that one's hard, right? Because we send technically humanitarian aid to Gaza, but we know that money is then, that's like funding the war, though, because then that money is used by Hamas and they've become billionaires from it, taking all of, the UNRWA funding and all of the UN funding, et cetera. So I think that one is a bit touchy because maybe it's coming in the form of humanitarian aid, but it doesn't mean that Boko Haram or Hamas, whoever, is not, collecting these funds.
Look, my big thing is this. If you're a country that has their citizens on the street yelling death to America and you're not doing anything about it, then you shouldn't get a penny.
Right.
But if you are a real ally that loves America and you don't have their citizens yelling death to America, a country like Israel, then if they are our ally, they're our only ally in the Middle East, really. Well, we're getting a few more now, right? But overall, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. As an Orthodox Jew, America first, an American, do you feel that you have a double loyalty to Israel in any way and America, and do you struggle with that? Like, are there certain things you would vote for as it pertains to Israel, but if it was, another country or something, you wouldn't care, per se?
I don't think I have a dual loyalty. I love America. I was born here. I bleed red, white, and blue. The way I see it is a strong America by default makes Israel a stronger country. So I don't feel a dual loyalty. Like I said, right? I don't plan on moving to Israel. They're like I said, their political system is more messed up than ours.
Right.
So until they get their, I mean, how many elections have they had in 5 years?
Like 5 or 6.
like 5 or 6, right? Like that's not normal. Like that's not a way to live. Where the whims of the government are dictated by coalitions that change every 5 minutes. Like I don't feel any. It's going to sound so bad and probably get me in so much hot water. I don't feel a loyalty to the Israeli government or to Israel itself, more to the Jewish people.
So you don't really feel a connection to the land either. It's just the Jewish people.
Well, I feel a connection to the land because it is a Jewish homeland.
Right.
But I don't feel a loyalty to the way the country is being run today.
Right.
Right. So I don't feel a connection, like a strong connection to Israel, but I feel a very strong connection to the Jewish homeland and the Jews of Israel, if that makes sense.
So you don't have a strong connection to the state of Israel as the government, per se, but you respect the land. You know that the land is holy, that we are indigenous to the land, that is our homeland.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. That's the way to put it. Yeah.
Will you send your children to Israel at all to study?
Yeah, if they want. I mean, I was there for 2 years, and my son right now, my oldest, he will be 15 in a month, and when he graduates high school, if he decides he wants to go to Israel to study, absolutely. If he decides he wants to, again, I'm one of these people that I will try to guide my kids to be the best person they can be. If one of my kids decides, hey, I want to join the Israeli army, I'm not going to stop them.
Okay.
But
it's not your preference.
It's not. I mean, I would love for them again to fight for the Jewish homeland, right? I think what's happening now is a noble cause, but I want, if they're going to be fighting, I want them to do it for the right reasons.
What are the right reasons?
Defending the Jewish people.
Right.
Not defending a state, but defending the Jewish people.
Okay. I understand. I got it.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking of like in Israel of like, how we have religious Zionists, then we have Zionists, and then we have people who are anti-Zionists, but then we have people who are like, no, but I love the land, I don't like the state. So I'm just like thinking of all the categories and like which category you fall into,
So I'm one of these people that, to me, a Jew is a Jew. Like, I don't care how you practice Judaism is between you and God. That's it. Don't care. If you treat me well and you treat my family well, then we're fine. We're good. We can be friends. I'm happy with that. But I will never judge anyone on how they practice their religion, not just Judaism, right? I've got a ton of any religion. I have friends who are Muslim, and they are some of the most amazing people on the face of the planet, because they're not calling death to Jews and death to America and stuff like that, and they're just amazing individuals. I don't care how you practice your religion. That's between you and God. But if you treat me well, if you treat my family well, if you treat my friends well, then we're good.
Yeah, it's all love.
I'll go to battle with you any day.
I love that. I love that so much. Talk to me about October 7th in terms of Israel's policies in terms of guns. What do you think Israel should do about their gun policies?
Change them completely, 100%. They have horrible policies. Now, again, a lot's changed, but not that much. So pre-October 7th, and this is to my knowledge. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be corrected. That's okay. To my knowledge, before October 7th, an individual who was allowed to own a gun was only allowed to own one handgun at a time. Had to be registered. You were only allowed 50 rounds of ammunition at any given time in your home or on person. And then you were not allowed to own any long guns, so no rifles, shotguns, things like that. So I think that's
What is the importance of being able to have more than 50 rounds? And what is the importance of being able to have like a rifle and a long shotgun? For those of us who don't understand.
Yeah, okay, no problem. So 50 rounds is absolutely nothing. I usually, when I go out of the house, I have more than 50 rounds on me at any given time. Reason is, a gun battle will last as long as your ammo lasts. So if you're if you are in a place where, if I'm in a mall and a gunman with an AR-15 comes and starts shooting up the mall, and he has 10 30-round magazines on him, well, hopefully I can take him down within 50 shots. But the idea though is that what happens if you need more? What happens if, the perfect example is October 7th, right? You had I don't even know how many members of Hamas come in and murder thousands, or was it like 1,200, 1,300, something like that? I don't remember the exact number.
1,200.
Right? 1,200, right? So, and how many members of Hamas? Well, you have a guy who has 50 rounds, but you have 7 guys coming each with 300 rounds.
Yeah.
Odds aren't in your favor. Also, rifles are superior in terms of big gun battles like that. So if there were more individuals who had access to rifles, now again, I'm not going to play God, and I'm not going to say, well, things could have been different. God wanted it to happen, it happened. But I know Mash said he said it on your show, but it's kind of my line that I have on shirts and everything. People with ARs don't get in cattle cars, right? And
he said armed Jews don't end up in box cars.
Cars, right? So people with ARs don't get in cattle cars has been my kind of rally cry for the last bunch of years. And I'm happy Madge used it. I love Madge. He's a great friend of mine, good guy. But yeah,
Shout
that's
out
what
to
it comes down to.
He's awesome. He was my first guest.
He's so good. I love Madge. He's great. He's fantastic. I love being around him. Always fun. I love listening to him. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but he is a very, very thought out, articulate individual, and I really enjoy Maj a lot. But that said, the idea is that rifles are superior in gun battles. Handguns are fantastic as well, but a long gun goes a long way. If you have a 30-round magazine, right? I mean, I have just right here, literally right here, I have, I don't know, 8 loaded magazines for my rifle right there. So just, I mean, that would throw me in prison in Israel if I had that many.
What's the max you can have in the U.S. or I guess in Texas, because it's probably state specific?
In Texas, there is no max.
Oh, you can have as many rounds as you want on you.
Oh yeah. It's fantastic. It's great.
So how many do you carry on your person to feel like, okay, I can protect me and my family, my wife and my 4 kids? We're out. We went to the restaurant and we're going to dinner, and I need X amount to feel like I can protect everyone if something were to happen.
So the gun that I normally carry has 15 rounds in it plus 1 in the chamber, so 16 rounds, which means I don't know if you know, again, I don't know how far your gun knowledge goes, but 1 in the chamber means not far. Okay, so it means that the magazine is full to capacity, but I also have 1 round already in the barrel or in the chamber, as it's called. So if I have to pull it, I don't have to rack it back. I can just go and fire it.
Okay.
So it's already fully loaded. So I have 16 rounds on me there, and usually 2 15-rounders on the other side. So 46 rounds usually. If I'm going out, if I'm just running to like our grocery store, I'll probably maybe just put 1 extra magazine on. Again, it's just a matter of your gun battles last as long as your ammo. Okay. And if someone has a rifle with a bunch of extra magazines, then I want to have at least somewhat of a fighting chance. So
at any given time, do you take more than 50 rounds with you?
No, I mean, again, depends where I'm going, right? Like I have a backpack, we call it a truck gun, right? So my truck gun, depending on where I'm going in Texas, I'll have a backpack right on my front seat next to me. And the gun that I have has a 30-round magazine already in it. And then I have 5 30-round mags. So that's 150 rounds.
So my question is, like day to day, if for you as an advocate, you're saying you don't really take more than 50 out with you day to day. But for Israel, you're saying to have 50 as the limit is, ludicrous. Why, if you don't take 50 out with you on day to day on your person?
Well, 2 things.
Is it because it's a mandated limit? Is that the problem, or?
Well, first off, yeah, it's a mandated limit, and I think that's dumb. But secondly, I'm saying I don't take 50 on me when I go to the market. I'm not. I can't even tell you how much ammo I have in my house. I'm not saying I have 150 rounds of ammo in my house. I have a lot, and the amount I have is nothing compared to my friends. So it has not like I'm not saying that the people on October 7th should have had 50 rounds on them, but if they had rifles and 1,000 rounds, and that's still a little bit, it could have been at least given them a fighting chance. Now again, I'm not playing God. I can't say that if anything would have changed, but I'd like to believe that if they had more than 50 rounds and had long guns, not just handguns, that you would have had a real gun battle and more people would have survived. That's what I would like to believe.
I can understand that. What's the biggest misconception that you want to bust about guns in the Orthodox Jewish community, and the Jewish community in general?
Yeah, that not all Jews are anti-gun. Unfortunately, some of the biggest gun grabbers in the U.S. government are, I like to call them ginos, right? Jews in name only.
Yeah, we have a lot of those in America.
We have so many. And some of the biggest gun grabbers are Jewish, right? You had Dianne Feinstein, you have Michael Bloomberg, you have Rich Blumenthal, you have Chuck Schumer. I mean, the list is endless. And unfortunately, America sees them as a representation of the Jewish people. and that, oh yeah, Jews want to ban guns. That's not true. These people are Jews in name only, right? They don't practice Judaism. Chuck Schumer, right? He meat and milk, right? He just took his raw patties and put a piece of cheese on it in that picture on July 4th, right?
Oh yes, at the barbecue.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I think
he
it was
looked like
Chuck
he couldn't
Schumer.
really barbecue well.
Yeah, exactly. He had no idea what he was doing. So my point is that a majority of Jews in this country, I guess I can't say a majority because majority of Jews tend to be liberal, but I'm saying in America, it's an overwhelmingly greater number than Orthodox Jews. That not all Jews are anti-gun, and when people are saying that, it makes the Jews who are pro-gun more afraid to speak out because they don't, it's an uphill battle, and that's what I would say is that not all Jews are anti-gun. Most Orthodox Jews are incredibly pro-gun, and we're looking for a home. I mean, we're looking for a home in terms of a gun home, right? A organization that we can latch onto and educate ourselves and stuff like that. And I'm working on that. I'm in talks with a few organizations. So
are you doing that with the PewPewJew.com or?
So the PewPewJew.com was a way for me to make money to sponsor my own books, so I wouldn't have to get sponsors. But again, my brand has become a place where I get daily inquiries about, I'm in Maryland, I'm in this state, I'm in Ohio, and do you know any firearms instructors that are willing to come to the synagogue and stuff like that. So it's become a hub, but I'm looking for a bigger platform, and I'm in talks with a few gun rights organizations to start working with them to bring Jews in and hopefully, expand.
Will you be targeting college students, Jewish college students, given what we're seeing on campuses across America right now? What we've seen at Columbia University. When I had Maj on the show, I talked about, so what would be your advice to those kids? And he said, I would have had my weapon on me and I would have pushed past those lines and went to class. And if someone would have attacked me, then I would have defended myself. And I thought to myself, they came out with headlines that Jewish students, they sent Jewish students home because the police could not protect them. Campus police could not protect them. So they sent Jewish students home. And my response to that was, well, then protect yourselves. We need to be able to protect ourselves. You guys are paying thousands of dollars to go to school here. No one should be, having a line in an encampment, keeping you out of those doors, out of your classrooms where you're paying to go to school. So if the campus police 100%. Can't protect you, then you should be able to protect your own person and still go to school. What's your opinion about that?
So I agree 100% with Maj. Now, Maj is a tricky beast because
he's got big shoulders.
He's got big shoulders, and he also carries everywhere. Most people will not do what Maj does, right? Where if you're not allowed to carry, you don't carry. College campuses are very rough because not all college campuses have campus carry. For example, in Texas, we have campus carry on public campuses, but if it's a private school, not a state-funded school, then it's up to the school on whether or not you're allowed to carry. So a place like Columbia or Harvard, which are privatized, they're not state-run schools. If they say you're not allowed to carry a gun on campus, you're not allowed to carry a gun on campus. Now, I'm of the belief that I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6, right? So if you are a Jewish student on a college campus that does not allow you, I'm a little be ungovernable, but don't do it stupidly. And again, if you can't carry a gun, get a knife. If you can't carry a knife, walk around with a baseball bat. You can't do that, learn martial arts, right? There's a million different forms of self-defense tools out there that you can use. But we just saw the Secret Service couldn't protect the president. So I'm not really, hearing that the Columbia, security is telling Jewish students to stay home because we can't protect you is not surprising. And also, why would they want to put their lives in danger when they're getting paid $20 an hour? You know what I'm saying? Or right. I don't know how much they're getting paid, but like they're a bunch of rent-a-cops, right?
Yeah.
And it's just one of the things, like, why are we putting our lives in danger? Their whole thing is they walk around and we'll try to protect you as well as possible. When what hits the fan, it's like, right. Oh no, we don't serve and protect now.
Yehuda, why have people been so convinced to outsource their protection to law enforcement, to security officers? Why do they feel a sense of safety? It's just a feeling, because we know, I think the average time that a police officer will show up after you call them is 7 to 8 minutes nationally. So why have people been so, convinced that, no, I can just outsource my protection?
Call it laziness, call it media manipulation. I mean, there's a million reasons for it. I believe that you are your own first line of defense. I think, the age-old saying in the gun industry that a bullet is faster than a cop, or what is it? A bullet is faster than dialing 911.
It's not like we can tell the criminal, like, can you hold on while I dial 911 and wait 7 minutes before you come and attack me? Thanks.
I know that's right. That's exactly what it is. I think that there's a lot of people that have become so complacent in life that they, A, don't think it's going to happen to them, and B, if it does happen to them, well, that's why we have police, right? But they don't comprehend the fact that if a guy breaks into your house, I mean, it takes seconds for something bad to happen. Seconds. You probably won't even get to your phone if someone is looking to do you harm. So I think it's just become people have become complacent in their lives, and they're like, oh, well, it's not going to happen to us, and the chances of it happening to us, well, we'll just call the cops. And I'm also the belief that it's not about the odds, it's about the stakes, right? I don't think it's going to happen to me, but I'll tell you one thing: if it does, I'm locked and loaded in less than half a second. I mean, I have a gun right by my bed. I have a whole game plan. My kids know it. My wife knows it. It's just one of those things that I think that's what it is. It's really just complacency in life.
For the young Jewish person who's watching this, or the old Jewish person who's watching this, and they've never touched a firearm, they are now watching this show, they're now interested, they're convinced. What do you say to them? Where do they start?
Go to your local range. Tell them your concerns. Most ranges are incredibly open to new shooters, as long as you're not coming, this is what I'll tell you. No matter who you are, man, women, old, young, doesn't make a difference. When you walk through those doors for a gun range looking to learn, check your ego at the door. I don't care if you were in the military at one point, or if, your dad grew up with guns and you shot when you were younger. Check the ego at the door and listen to what these people say. I took a buddy of mine to the gun range yesterday because he had some questions that I couldn't answer because I didn't know the answers to them. And I brought him to my local store, and one of my buddies there who works at the store is one of the most knowledgeable people. And I turned to my buddy, I'm like, hey man, listen, check the ego at the door, listen to what this guy has to say. And my buddy asked the worker a question, and the worker just broke it all down for him. And my buddy was like, holy cow, that was fantastic. Like, so much things that I thought I knew that I didn't know. So check your ego at the door, walk into a gun range, tell them your concerns, tell them what you're there for, whether it's you want to buy your first gun, for home defense, self-defense, whether you just want to learn to shoot properly, talk to them. Most of them are willing to help and, not going to turn you away.
Yehuda, tell us the titles of all 9 of your books and where people can find your books.
Oh, God. Okay, so my first book, that's a tough one. I don't think I remember that. So the first book is called Safety On, and it's an introduction to the world of firearms for children. I converted that to a coloring book. So it's a coloring book version for children.
Oh, that's amazing.
I have a book. Yeah, it's great because kids are very visual and hands-on, so it gives them a chance to learn the material, but also color the pages themselves. The next book is called The ABCs of Guns, which is literally an ABC book.
Wow, love it.
A is for ammunition and AR-15. B is for barrel and bipod. Just a fun way to educate your children.
Do you have like that? Is your ABC book kind of like, Guns for Dummies? I feel like I should get the ABC book.
No, it's not. It's literally an ABC book.
Oh, I love it. Okay, for those of you guys listening, you guys have to come and watch the actual visual video because it's really cool.
Yeah. Then I have 27 Words, which is a breakdown of the 27 words of the Second Amendment for children. So it's what we have the whole idea of the Second Amendment, and we teach our kids how to shoot at a young age. But why do we teach them to shoot, right? Like, kids need to understand it's because we have something called the Second Amendment, which is a God-given right to self-defense. So this kind of breaks down the 27 words of the Second Amendment for children. I have this book, which is still getting me in hot water. This is one of my books that are not kids' books. It's called Bullet Points: Reasons Why America Should Embrace Common Sense Gun Law. And so it's common sense gun law. You know what that is, right?
So you're getting in hot water with the gun community.
Yeah, but then when you open the book, it's like Michael Knowles' book. It's completely blank. All my reasons why.
Oh, I love that. You're trolling
So it's all
us.
my reasons. Oh, it was great when the rollout came. I have a friend named Jill McDaniel who runs an organization called Mom at Arms, and she is one of the most brutal investigative journalists I've ever dealt with, and I love her. And she's a close friend of mine. And I called her. I'm like, Jill, listen, I'm coming out with this new book. This is the idea. Don't kill me. So she turned to me. She's like, what can I do? I want to be part of it. So she started posting on all of her platforms, has the PewPewJew sold out? Has he become a turncoat? And I had owners of gun companies calling me saying, "Oh my God, what's this? We hear that you're pro gun control now." And I'm like, just hear me out. And then so the rollout was fantastic. When the book was released, I had so much fun with it because I got so much hate mail from people who judged the book by its cover. It was great. It was so much fun. So yeah, that was fun. Then I have Spot Gilly.
Oh, okay.
Which is a Where's Waldo for gun owners.
I love all your illustrations.
Thank you. Yeah,
They're really amazing.
I have a guy. He's amazing. I love my guy. He is so talented. Yeah, so that one is great. You got to find a sniper and 10 other characters on every page. So it's a really fun book. I have, there we go, 105 explosive gun jokes.
Did you come up with the jokes?
Me and my buddy Eric Jazurski, we came up with the jokes, and it's just really horrible dad jokes, just where you're gonna cringe, but just a lot of fun. Then
all right, next Father's Day, grab that book, guys.
Absolutely. This one I actually wrote. I used to work for Ben Shapiro back in LA. So I actually wrote this one. It's called 10 Little Liberals.
Okay.
And it's like 10 little liberals standing in a line, told to get a real job. Now they're only 9. And then it kind of
you can rhyme as well. I love that.
yeah. And the last book, hold on if I can get it, is inspired by 10 little liberals, but it's called 10 Little Gun Grabbers. And it's basically what happens when a gun grabber is confronted with a pro-gun idea. So it kind of pokes fun. So it's a little satirical, but it kind of pokes fun at, the people trying to take away our gun rights. So those are my 9 books. Which one is
your latest book?
The latest book is Bullet Points. The latest book is Spot Gilly.
Spot Gilly. Okay. So everyone go out and support and get Spot Gilly.
Yeah, you can get all the books on Amazon, but if you don't want them, if you want signed copies for, especially Bullet Points is the things I get from people saying like, hey, can you sign it to our anti-gun sister-in-law? Or, just like, but I've signed so many of those books to people in such funny ways. So those that's one of my best sellers, the Bullet Points. But if you want signed copies of my books as well as some great merchandise, like I sell this on T-shirts and hats and all the stuff. So like, you ever see the hashtag FAFO, FAFO?
No, what is FAFO?
It means F around, find out.
Oh, yes. Okay. I didn't know it was hashtag FAFO.
There we go. So that's mine, FAF, and then the IDF logo.
I love that.
As the O. So I have.
Okay, I got to get one of those. I want one of those.
Yeah. Then we have Gun Control's Not Kosher with a big pig on a bunch of stuff.
I love that.
So I have a lot of fun on my website.
I love it. You're like a big troll as well.
Yes,
you really troll
I'm very
the people.
Self-deprecating. I troll the beauty about me is I'm kind of like South Park in terms of everyone is fair game.
Yes.
I don't care who you are. I am pro-gun, pro-America, pro-freedom, pro-Constitution, and I am who I am. If you like me, fantastic. If you don't like me, fantastic. Not going to make a difference to me. So I have a very good time with what I do. All my friends know that if I ever troll them, they know it's not coming out of a place of being malicious, that it's just all in good fun. I have this one buddy of mine who I went to dinner with, and he got a bacon cheeseburger, and I turned to him. I'm like, dude, we were in Vegas, and I just took out a little bagel from my backpack, and like to this day I still make fun of him that like he had to get the most not kosher item on, but like if you really want to know who I am, let's see if I think I have it in here. Is it here? It was here. So like I may oh, here it is. It's coming. So I'm, like I said, I'm very self-deprecating, right? I take anti-Semitism and I turn it upside down, right? So like, now this isn't necessarily anti-Semitism, but like in terms of stereotypes, right? Jews love bagels,
right?
That's like the big stereotype. So so there's a big show called SHOT Show every year in Las Vegas, and I've been going for the last 7 years. And whenever I go, I'm always hanging out with my non-Jewish friends who are getting, we go to restaurants and they're getting the most not kosher items. And I always just pull a bagel right out of my backpack. So I reached out to a company, and I actually got them to make me a bagel holster.
No way. I love that.
I literally will walk around Las Vegas at the world's biggest gun show with this clipped to my belt. As a bagel holster.
Are you selling those? I feel like those need to be sold out in the Jewish community.
I'm looking to the company that I did it with. The deal they're giving me is I don't really like it, but I'm working with another company. Hopefully, I'm gonna be meeting with the company next month, and I'm gonna like really hound them to start making these holsters, because I think I'm self-deprecating. I love it. On my website, I have a Jewish conspiracy section where I sell a tinfoil yarmulke and I sell a Jewish space laser for $1 million. Both are sold out. But it's one of those things when you make fun of yourself, you take away their power.
Right.
There's nothing, right? There's nothing like here. I'm gonna text you right now, Ashira, and I want you, in terms of dealing with anti-Semitism online. So I just texted you. You can see the meme that I created.
Okay, I have to see it after the show because I don't have my phone on me.
Okay, sorry. So after the show, you'll see it. This is who I am. The meme. I mean, it literally is. I'm not afraid of a fight, and I'm not afraid of who I am. I'm proud to be Jewish. I'm proud of what I've become, what I stand for, and I just have a really good time doing it all.
Kol hakavod. I really love that. Can you tell everyone where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. Across the board at the PewPewJew, PewPewJew. So at the PewPewJew as well as thepewpewjew.com.
Awesome. Yehuda, I hope that I come to Dallas and I get to spend Shabbat with you and your family, and you can teach me how to shoot some guns. Your 8-year-old can teach me how to shoot some guns. We'll have a great time. Obviously not on Shabbat, but after Shabbat.
Right. After Shabbat. Absolutely. We would be honored to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I learned so much, and you have such an authentic voice and authentic heart, and it was a real pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right, guys, that is a wrap. Let me know if you liked this episode. Like, comment, and share. Comment in the comment section. I want to know. I want to hear from my Jewish community. Are you anti-gun? Are you pro-gun? Are you afraid of guns? How do you feel about your children handling guns? Argue in the comment section and I'll respond. All righty. Till next week. I'll see you. Bye.